I think we're live. I think we're live, Simone.
Yes, it appears we're live.
Hello, Internet. This is Vagina Humphreys and my co-host.
Simone von Advar.
And yes, we're doing a live vagina chat this week about a very, very serious topic.
Yes, I'm a really big fan of Public Enemy.
What are you talking about, Simone?
I like Public Enemy. They're my favourite rap band. That's because we're talking about rap culture, aren't we?
No, Simone, we're not talking about rap culture. We're talking about rape culture.
I'm sorry, I must have misread it.
Yes, obviously you did, Simone. You obviously misread what the show was about. And this is a very serious topic, so I'd appreciate it if you paid attention and maybe stopped eating for 5 minutes and really discuss this topic seriously, because it's something which affects all of us.
I wasn't trying to make light of it. I seriously misread it.
Well, okay, fair enough, Simone. So what sparked this topic was I received an email from an anonymous person talking about the dreaded rape culture in the atheist community, and I think we should go through her letter and read it, because it's a terrible experience this poor young woman went through, and I think we really need to highlight it.
I haven't read the letter yet.
Yes, because it was addressed to me, Simone, because I'm the important one. You're just there to make me look good, that's all.
What's that supposed to mean?
Don't worry, Simone. Let's just read the letter and see what this poor defenseless anonymous person has to say, because I'm sure it's all 100% real. The letter starts, "Dear Vagina, I wasn't sure I should write this story. As most women know, our lived experiences aren't believed by the patriarchal society we live in." Well, that's 100% true. The patriarchy just doesn't listen to women's lived experiences at all. We're constantly silenced by the patriarchy.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
She goes on to say, 1 in 5 women will be raped in their lifetime. This is a fact, and that doesn't even take into account that most rapes are never reported. I think that's a really good point, because it's obviously a lot higher than 1 in 5. They're only the reported rapes. I mean, if we take into account all the unreported rapes, then it's probably 4 or 5 out of 5, maybe even 6.
I don't know if that adds up mathematically.
Well, we all know that math is just a tool of the patriarchy anyway, Simone, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't add up mathematically. It's still reality. She goes on to say, and those of us who are brave enough to speak up are shouted down by the hordes of anti-SJW trolls on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and the internet in general. And that's true. That is 100% true. They're constantly trying to silence women's voices. I even see that Blaine 666 guy is in the chat, and yeah, he's just a misogynistic monster.
I actually quite like Bane.
I think it's Blaine, Simone. Blaine 666 or something like that. But yeah, and I see him making comments about us in the chat, and I find him disgusting. But anyway, let's get back to the letter, because that's what's important here. She says, but after the avalanche of women reporting their assaults with Me Too, how could I not add my voice and speak up? We can't let the trolls win, and it's time that society heard women's voices, and not just those of privileged, straight, white men. So here is my story. This is really hard for me to read too, Simone, I just want to say.
Is it really that bad?
It's horrific, Simone. Wait until you see what this poor young woman went through. It's really bad. Anyway, she says, I was raised in a fairly religious household. We would go to church every Sunday when I was younger. I went less frequently when I got a bit older, and we would say grace before every family meal. You know, a fairly typical Southern Baptist family. And it wasn't until I was around 14 that I started questioning Christianity and the beliefs held by my family. At first, my folks weren't too happy with my blossoming atheism. My father once half-jokingly asked if I was joining a cult. I'm still not entirely sure how serious he was, but in time they came to accept it because they loved me. They just never mentioned it to family or friends. It was the family secret. Lucky they don't know I'm bisexual as well, I guess. How would they ever live down a daughter who is an atheist and bi?
Yeah, that must be pretty tough, coming from a family like that.
Yes, I imagine it would be, Simone.
But what's that got to do with rape culture?
We're getting to that, Simone. You just have to be patient, okay? She goes on to say, I had no one to talk to about my newfound atheism for years, because no one I knew would understand. Then when I turned 16, I found YouTube, and my life changed. I watched hours of footage of discussions and debates from years past, and it was amazing, although not without its issues. And I think there's a lot of issues in the atheist community on YouTube. It's filled with rapists and all kinds of nasty things.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I'm 100% sure. I've watched Steve Shire's videos, so I know how bad the atheist community on YouTube is. They're like all rapists, except for the social justice advocates. They're not rapists, obviously, but all the anti-SJW atheists, they're all like convicted rapists and things.
I don't know if any of them have been convicted of rape.
Well, that's only because the court system never convicts rapists, Simone. Otherwise, they'd all be in jail. If we weren't living in a patriarchy, every one of them would be behind bars. But it just proves that the patriarchy doesn't care about women or women being raped, because they're letting these monsters go free.
I don't know if that's an accurate description.
Well, I don't care if you disagree with me, Simone. What's important is that we stick to the facts, and that's a fact. Anyway, she goes on to say, many of these videos were made by straight white men whose opinions and attitudes towards other groups were problematic. I found it disappointing that so many people I admired because of their atheism could be so hateful towards women and promote misogyny. And I found it very disappointing that there wasn't more female voices adding our perspective, like the great Rebecca Watson, who has been endlessly attacked by the misogynists and the trolls, just because she is a strong woman and they found her intimidating. And that's true, Simone. Rebecca Watson's like one of my heroes.
Yeah, I quite like her too.
Yeah, she's just an amazing woman. I mean, the way she handles herself is just, it's amazing. So anyway, the letter goes on. Despite this, I still wanted to go to an atheist convention. But until this year, I didn't have the courage for two reasons. The first is, I was born with a medical condition called dysmelia. In case you haven't heard of it, it's a condition with many different causes that causes limbs to be deformed before birth. I was a lot luckier than many with this condition, and was born with just a malformed left arm. My left hand and fingers never fully formed. It's not something entirely noticeable from a distance in my case, but the relentless teasing I received in elementary school has made me very self-conscious. Thankfully, by junior high, I had found social justice and a group of woke friends who loved me for me, despite my handicap. Although, ironically, I still wasn't brave enough to bring up the topic of atheism with them. Oh, this poor girl, she must have been through so much. Obviously, it was all males who were teasing her.
She doesn't actually say it was all males.
No, but obviously it would have been, Simone, because that's what males do. Anyway, let's continue with the letter. But being self-conscious about my arm has held me back. I know it's probably stupid, but I just imagined everyone at an atheist convention looking at me like I wasn't meant to be there or something. The other reason I put off going to atheist conventions was the large number of misogynists that attend these gatherings. Yes, and that's true, Simone. It's just like misogynistic central, isn't it, at an atheist convention?
Well, that's what I've heard a lot of people say, but I don't know if it's true.
Well, obviously it's true, Simone. Why would Rebecca Watson and Steve Shives and PC Myers say things like that if it wasn't true?
I guess that's the point.
Anyway, she continues, I was afraid I'd be abused for just being a woman, or even worse, sexually assaulted or raped. The stories I constantly hear from the social justice atheist community are horrifying. Why would any woman want to put herself through that? There have been many attempts to clean up the community, but as you will see later in my story, I think those attempts are in vain. Yes, that's true. I mean, it's just, like I said, these conventions are just rape central. It's like they advertise for rapists to turn up or something.
I still don't think it's as bad as what you're saying.
Well, obviously it is, Simone. You haven't read the entire letter yet. Wait until you hear what happened to this poor defenseless young woman with a gimpy arm. It's horrendous. Anyway, she continues. So I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to go to a convention and be targeted for the type of people who cheer Carl Benjamin's rape threats on Twitter. I wasn't going to subject myself to taunts and possible assault by crybaby Menonists and Kekistani shitheads from 4chan. And I mean, why would you? Why would you want to put yourself through that?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point.
Exactly, Simone. Of course, it's a fair point. But TAC changed my mind, unfortunately. I think TAC stands for the Amazing Convention or something like that.
Well, wasn't it cancelled?
I don't know, Simone. Obviously it wasn't cancelled if she went to it.
I'm pretty sure that fell apart and it was cancelled.
Are you saying she's a liar, Simone?
No, I'm just saying it's strange, that's all.
By strange, you're saying that this young woman is obviously a liar.
Well, no, I haven't said that. I'm just asking a question, that's all.
Well, questions are for misogynists, Simone. We just have to listen and believe. So let's continue and see what she has to say. I'm sure your question will be answered somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's continue. The Atheist Conference offered a safe space for those of us who believe in social justice. Women wouldn't be discriminated against, or people of colour for their skin, and that sounds fantastic. That's what we need more of in society. And many of the woke atheists on YouTube that I admire were going to be there. I thought I could actually meet some of those people in person. I was excited and booked my tickets. I could have a couple of days watching my idols in person, with no hate-filled crybabies moaning that the wage gap isn't real. Fact, it is. Or how all women have it easy. Fact, we don't. I thought it would be paradise, but it ended up being a living hell.
Well, that doesn't sound too good.
No, it's not good, Simone. It's terrible, in fact. It's horrendous. Wait until you hear what happens. She says, Firstly, I missed my train. As a new college student, I couldn't afford to fly. It's hard enough to pay the bills and still have 3 meals a day. Many days I don't. And my part-time job doesn't pay much. Thanks, patriarchy. Not to mention that I get paid less for just being a woman. That's true. The wage gap is real.
Yes, it is. It's horrendous.
Yes, it is, Simone. It's horrendous. Anyway, she continues. So just being able to scrape together enough money for a ticket to TAC, as well as accommodation, etc., was enough to bankrupt me. I had some help from my folks. Thanks, Dad. Although he'd die if he knew what I was spending the money on. So obviously flying was out of the question, requiring me to take a long-ass train trip, and due to car problems and traffic, I missed my train. Probably due to patriarchy as well.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Well, obviously I'm right, Simone. So she goes on to say, at the time I thought it was the end of the world. It wasn't, and I thought I would be terribly late, or not make it at all. I did make it, unfortunately. I went into full panic mode, and the fact I'd just started my period and had killer cramps didn't help. I may have bitten the head off the station attendant, but he was rude anyway. Yes, obviously he was rude just because she was a woman.
Well, she doesn't actually say that.
Well, I don't care if she says it or not, Simone. It's pretty obvious because we live in a patriarchy. She says, looking back on it all, though, my life would have been better if I'd just given up, turned around and gone back to my apartment. It was tempting. Thoughts of strangers looking at my arm and judging me made me want to give up then and there. But I'd spent a lot of money on this and had gone to a great deal of trouble organising everything. I'd even talked to my friend Sarah into looking after Fritz, and she hates cats. And TAC was meant to be safe from the entitled straight white male MRA types who hate women and want to make rape legal on private property. They actually want to do that. Can you believe that? Why aren't these creeps in jail? And that's true, Simone. They all want to make rape legal on private property.
Actually, that was just Roosh Fee, and he's not even an MRA.
Oh, of course he's an MRA, Simone. He speaks for all the MRAs, so that makes him an MRA. Just wake up, Simone. Get woke. What is wrong with you? I seriously wonder what's wrong with you sometimes. But anyway, the gimpy girl goes on to say, I told myself I'd be surrounded by good men, safe men, who actually care about women, and understand that we are systematically oppressed by the patriarchal system that governs us all. These men have broken away from the programming of toxic masculinity and see women as fully formed human beings, not just holes to put their dicks in. Well, that's what they were meant to be like anyway.
So I don't understand what's going on here.
Well, it's pretty obvious, Simone. She's an atheist, and she's going to TAC to see some of her favourite people, her favourite YouTubers.
But this took place last year?
Yes, Simone, last year, 2018.
But how could it take place last year when the conference didn't take place? It was cancelled.
Well, obviously it wasn't, Simone.
But it was. There was like a lot of stories about it, and it never happened.
Well, are you saying she's a liar, Simone?
No, I'm just curious.
Well, clearly she's not a liar because she's a woman, Simone. We have to believe women. We have to believe female victims because the patriarchy just throws them away.
I'm not saying we shouldn't believe her. I'm just saying it's a strange thing.
Well, you're a strange thing, Simone, so maybe you should just shut up and let me finish the letter. She says, my first day there, I pretty much kept to myself. The second day, though, I was a lot braver and started talking to people. They were nice and treated me well. I was happy and thought I'd made the right decision. These people understood me. They agreed with my politics. I could feel comfortable without being judged or attacked for my opinions. I started to feel brave and decided to talk to someone from YouTube that I idolised. I knew I'd never forgive myself if I went home without talking to at least one person, as I might never have the opportunity again. I saw Christy Winters and spoke to her briefly. She was busy and there were lots of people around her, but she was polite. TAC was turning out to be a highlight of my otherwise boring life.
But I'm still confused because it was called off, and Christy Winters never actually went because it didn't actually happen.
Well, obviously it did happen, Simone. You're wrong because this young girl's saying that it happened.
Yeah, but it's an anonymous letter. I mean, what if she's making it up?
Oh my God, are you saying women lie about rape?
No, I'm just saying it's strange and it doesn't entirely make sense.
Well, I think it makes perfect sense, Simone. This poor young gimpy girl with a deformed arm is clearly not a liar. How dare you? How dare you attack this poor, defenseless female victim with a gimpy arm? I mean, how do you sleep at night, Simone?
I'm not attacking her. I'm just saying it doesn't entirely make sense. That's all.
Well, maybe you should listen to what she's saying. In fact, let's continue with her letter. She says, but the day would soon take a turn for the worst. I saw another YouTuber I greatly admired, although no longer do. I won't mention his name as I don't want any legal ramifications, but I will say he is known for his distinctive baseball cap. That's probably Sargon, isn't it?
Sargon doesn't wear a baseball cap.
Well, obviously he does, Simone. Why would she say that Sargon is wearing a baseball cap if he doesn't wear a baseball cap?
But she didn't say it was Sargon. She said it. She's not naming him. It's just someone with a baseball cap.
Yes, someone called Sargon, clearly.
But she doesn't say his name.
Well, she doesn't have to, Simone. We know it's Sargon because he wears a baseball cap. I mean, why are you being so difficult, Simone? Just listen to what she has to say. Anyway, she says, I nervously approached him and told him I was a huge fan. He greeted me with a warm smile. I felt comfortable with myself. It was like he didn't see my arm, but just me for who I was. We chatted for a while before he asked if I'd travelled here alone. I told him yes. He looked at his watch and suggested we should go to my room and continue our conversation as he had a little bit of time to spare.
It's obviously not Sargon because not only does Sargon not wear a baseball cap, but she said she doesn't like Sargon.
Well, no, she definitely doesn't like him now.
No, but she said she never liked him, so it can't be Sargon, it has to be someone else.
Well, who else could it be, Simone?
Well, I don't know. She said she doesn't name him, so it could be anyone.
Well, obviously, if it could be anyone, it could be Sargon. I mean, who else wears a baseball cap, Simone? No one. She goes on to say, I naively asked why we couldn't finish our conversation here. He then grabbed my ass firmly and said, why do you think? With a sickening smirk through his beard. Well, see, Simone, it is Sargon. Sargon has a beard.
Yeah, but he's not the only one who has a beard.
Yes, but he's the only one who has a beard and wears a baseball cap.
Yeah, but Sargon doesn't wear a baseball cap. I've told you that like 100 times now.
Well, who has a beard and wears a baseball cap, Simone? Can you tell me? Someone apart from Sargon. Is there anyone?
Well, Steve Shives?
Well, it's obviously not Steve Shives, Simone. Steve Shives doesn't rape women. He supports women. He's one of the good men. So it has to be Sargon, clearly.
Well, I'm just saying that if you're talking about a social justice advocate who's an atheist who has a beard and wears a baseball cap, then it's pretty obviously Steve Shives.
Well, it can't be Steve Shives if it's Sargon, Simone. So let's just continue. We're trying to hear this poor woman's story and you keep interrupting with asking for logic and facts. And I don't see why they're important in this situation. Anyway, she goes on to say, I was horrified. This man is around the same age as my father. Just because I admired him on YouTube didn't mean I wanted to sleep with him. And besides, even if I did find him attractive, which I don't, he's a married man. I didn't know what to say or how to react. I was frozen, as if outside my body watching it happen to someone else. And a sickening feeling was growing in my stomach. I wanted to burst out in tears, but for some reason couldn't. I still don't know why. Maybe fear or shock. Either way, I was frozen, unable to say or do anything. He squeezed my ass tighter and said, well, I don't have a lot of time. Can I fuck you or not? This time the tears did come. It was like a dam wall broke within me and tears flooded out in a deluge. I whispered no in a tiny croaky voice. His grin turned into a frown, and he said, "What good are you to me then?" It was like a knife to my heart. I said, "I just wanted to talk to you because I admire your work. That doesn't mean I want to sleep with you." He smirked again and said, "I would have thought you'd be easy with an arm like that."
What an asshole.
Yes, he's an asshole, saying something like that to this poor girl. What a monster. Sargon's a monster.
I still don't think it's Sargon.
Well, you can think what you want, Simone, but I think the evidence clearly supports who it really is. She goes on to say, "I was crushed. I felt like part of me just died inside. I turned and ran from the conference. I cried for hours in my hotel room before packing my things and leaving early. I couldn't go back and risk running into him again. I cried most of the way home on the train. A stranger asked if I was all right, and I shouted at him to leave me alone." He's probably another rapist anyway.
Well, no, it sounds like he was just being concerned.
Yes, concerned so he could get her alone and rape her, Simone. That's what men do. She goes on to say, "I wasn't about to trust another man. Just because he was acting kind doesn't mean he didn't have ulterior motives. I've only ever had one boyfriend. I gave my virginity to him when I was 16, just 2.5 years ago, and he broke up with me soon afterwards. Some of the other boys had teased him for sleeping with the freak, and I've fooled around a bit with a couple of girls after having too much to drink, but I'm not overly experienced sexually. And the idea of a married man who is old enough to be my father wanting to use me because he thinks I'm easy makes me sick. This is why we can't trust men, any men, because they are only interested in one thing and will do or say anything to get it. I don't know if Steve would have raped me if I naively took him back to my room, at least not forcibly raped me, but I don't doubt he would have pressured or guilted me into doing something I didn't want to do, and that is still rape."
She just said his name was Steve.
Well, isn't Sargon's real name Steve?
No, Sargon's real name is Carl.
Well, Carl sounds like a name of a rapist.
No, it doesn't, but she's saying his name is Steve. I think it's pretty obvious that she's talking about Steve Shives.
Well, she couldn't be talking about Steve Shives, Simone. She's talking about someone called Steve, who's a social justice advocate on YouTube, who talks about atheism, who was invited to the amazing conference to give a talk, who's married, has a beard, and a baseball cap, and that doesn't sound anything like Steve Shives at all.
That sounds exactly like Steve Shives.
How dare you say that Steve is a rapist, Simone? Steve is a feminist. He supports women. He doesn't rape them.
Well, just because he's a feminist doesn't mean he doesn't rape women.
Are you saying that raping women is a form of feminism, Simone? That's sick. That's sick. Clearly she's talking about Sargon. She goes on to say, "Rape doesn't have to be a stranger down a dark alleyway. It doesn't have to leave bruises on your body when the bruises on your mind are so much worse. I know I'm vulnerable. I know that's why he targeted me. And if I had been drunk or if he had more time to get into my head, I may have done something which I knew was wrong, something I undoubtedly would have regretted. This is how rape culture and toxic masculinity work. It's not by accident, it's by design to eat away at women, to keep us oppressed and downtrodden until we are reduced to nothing but fuck fodder for toxic males." And that's true, Simone. Males just see us as fuck fodder.
Well, I think that's a bit generalising of all males.
Well, yes, it's generalising because it's true, Simone. Anyway, she goes on to say, "I told myself that some men are different, but they aren't. I even wondered if my father and brothers are any different. After all, they've been raised in the same toxic women-hating society. I'm now asking myself if I'll ever get married and have kids. What's the point when my husband could turn out to be just another sexual predator, possibly even towards our children, or at very least cheat on me like every other man. Why would I subject myself to that? And I think that's a fair point, Simone. All men really are shit.
Well, I think that's a bit extreme.
No, it's men who are extreme, Simone. They're the ones that oppress us with the patriarchy. She goes on to say, which means I'll be forced to have children by myself, forced into a traditional role of stay-at-home mum, sacrificing years I could be spending on my career. Well, what other opinion is there with the current state of men? And they aren't going to change. Masculinity is toxic. White masculinity in particular. It's bred a culture of hate towards half the world's population. And the men who hide their toxic masculinity behind a veneer of feminism are the worst of them all. The misogynistic assholes who spread hate to women on 4chan are at least honest about who they are. Male feminists are just wolves in sheep's clothing, and these wolves want to use and rape us until our spirits are crushed.
Well, clearly she's not talking about Sargon, because she says it's a male feminist, like Steve Shives.
Well, she's clearly confused, Simone, because she's not only has she just been raped by Sargon, but she's also a retarded girl.
And she's not a retarded girl, she's in university.
Well, are you saying that retarded people shouldn't go to university, Simone?
No, I'm just saying that she's clearly not retarded. Why would you say she's retarded?
Well, she's got a gimpy arm, Simone, so clearly she's retarded.
Now, just because she's got a deformed arm doesn't mean she's intellectually disabled.
Well, how do you know that, Simone? How do you know that she's not? She might be confused by all the things that happen. Maybe she's suggesting that it's Steve Shives, but really she's just confused, and it's really Sargon, because that's something that Sargon would do.
No, she clearly knows exactly what she's saying, and she's saying that it's Steve Shives. Although I find the whole thing kind of hard to believe, because the conference didn't even happen.
You keep bringing this up, Simone, as if it's somehow important.
Well, obviously it's important. If the conference didn't happen, then the story doesn't make sense.
It makes perfect sense, Simone. These conferences are filled with rapists.
Yes, but if it never happened, then how could it happen?
Well, you're only trying to dismiss it because she's a woman, Simone, and you don't believe that women can be raped, especially retarded women like this one.
Well, she's not retarded, first of all. You keep saying that, and I think it's offensive. But she's not retarded, and she clearly is capable of understanding what was going on.
So you agree that she was raped by Sargon then?
No, I'm saying that the entire letter is suspicious because the conference didn't actually happen. Why is that hard to understand?
Because we live in rape culture, Simone. And it sounds like that you're supporting that rape culture.
No, I'm just saying we should be suspicious.
Well, why should we be suspicious of a young woman telling us her story, Simone?
Because it doesn't make sense, that's why.
Well, what other explanation could there be, Simone?
Well, it could be a fake letter. Maybe someone's doing it to dirty the name of Steve Shives, or maybe someone's written it to try to make a point that we should be suspicious of claims.
Well, that's stupid, Simone. Why would anyone write this letter just to make a point that we should be suspicious of all claims, especially those that don't make any sense? That's ludicrous. You're sounding more and more like a men's rights activist every day, Simone. I'm really worried about you.
I got a comment the other day in one of my videos where they said, hey, but extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. If you were really a skeptic and you were really informed on the issue, as a true skeptic I think should aspire to be, you would know that someone saying, I was raped, is not an extraordinary claim. Because it happens all the time. And it doesn't matter what the credentials of the rapist are. It doesn't matter how good their reputation is. It doesn't matter how many people you can get to sign a letter saying, well, he never tried to rape me. It doesn't matter. It happens all the time. Yeah, well, I've done that too, so I guess that makes me a rapist.